Today's episode is brought to you by Positively Productive Systems, whose mission is to be the antidote to your stress and to provide compassionate productivity resources and coaching that help you heal and achieve. Be sure to check out both free and paid resources at positivelyproductive.com/resources. Planning is a popular topic for a reason. It's an essential skill that can truly transform your life, from helping you achieve your life goals to handling a hectic holiday season with far less stress. Planning isn't just about creating to-do lists, it's about envisioning the desired outcome and charting a very specific course to achieve it. So how do you go about planning and doing so effectively? While there are many things to consider when creating a strong and flexible plan, and you can look up how to plan and get a lot of specifics in terms of breaking out tasks, I want to give you a framework today and a perspective that's going to simplify the entire concept for you. We're going to distill it down, and this approach will work for you regardless of what you're planning. You're listening to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zawrotny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and today's topic is intended to help you with planning nearly every aspect of your life, including events, which is just in time for the holiday season, so we'll definitely be talking about that. Planning is a popular topic for a reason. It's an essential skill that can truly transform your life, from helping you achieve your life goals to handling a hectic holiday season with far less stress. While our ability to be flexible and resilient and change direction is important, there's something about planning that is so powerful and so essential. There's even a quote attributed to Winston Churchill that says, "He who fails to plan is planning to fail." So I want you to think of planning as a way to arrange how things will go ideally. And even if they don't go that way, it will still help keep you focused and calm so that you can be more flexible and resilient if things go off the rails. So imagine hosting a holiday gathering where everything unfolds seamlessly. The space looks inviting, the food is so good, and your guests are enjoying themselves. And my favorite part of this would be that you're chill as well, right? Not stressed about it, just everything's going great. This is a real possibility that can come from proper planning. Planning isn't just about creating to-do lists, it's about envisioning the desired outcome and charting a very specific course to achieve it. So how do you go about planning and doing so effectively? While there are many things to consider when creating a strong and flexible plan, and you can look up how to plan and get a lot of specifics in terms of breaking out tasks, I want to give you a framework today and a perspective that's going to simplify the entire concept for you. We're going to distill it down, and this approach will work for you regardless of what you're planning. The idea here is starting with the end in mind. The cornerstone of effective planning is to, and I quote, begin with the end in mind. This means visualizing the final result you want to achieve. And begin with the end in mind is a phrase written by Dr. Stephen Covey, and it's the second of 7 habits of highly effective people. He wrote this in his best-selling book. The habit is based on the principle that all things are created twice, once in your mind and once in the physical world. Covey explains, to begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. It means to know where you're going so that you better understand where you are now so that the steps you take are always in the right direction. Side note, I think that's a little extreme because I think we can't underestimate the fact that we need to course correct as we go. But knowing where we want to end up will definitely help us create the most accurate steps to get there and help us course correct if we do get off track. While the context of Covey's principle was intended to apply toward a larger scale of life purpose, it can work for any kind of planning. Knowing the purpose of what you're planning is an important driver to ensure that you keep going. And by having a clear vision of the end goal, you can make informed decisions and identify the specific steps needed to get to your desired outcome. By having an understanding of when, how, and why you want an event to take place or a goal that you want to reach, you have a better sense of how much work needs to be done as well as when you'll need to get it done. As strange as it may sound, the most important direction for planning is backwards. It's most effective to build the steps in reverse order from the vision you have, which will include the deadline and the elements that need to be completed. So let's use an example of an event, and we'll go with traditional Thanksgiving dinner, something that I have hosted many, many times. Let's walk through the planning. Here are 5 parts that you want to consider. Number 1 is to define your vision. This is start with the end in mind. So you know the date. For those of us in the US, it's the last Thursday in November. Now visualize what you want and why. Why are you having this event? Is it because of family obligations, or is it more Friendsgiving? Is it because you want to ensure that people have a place to go, or because it's your turn? Do you want it to be casual or fancy? You need to understand your why behind this and what needs to be involved. For our family, it was always a small gathering based on tradition, rather casual, and often involved friends because I always wanted to make sure that people had a table to come to. And it was also the kickoff to our Christmas season. So it was less about the decorations for Thanksgiving and more about the food, the family, the friendship, and just the feeling of the holiday season beginning. The second part is to identify who is involved. Determine who you're inviting and be sure to notify them. Save the date is really important. This allows guests time to plan and ensures that you have an accurate head count for food and for seating. It's also important if part of your vision is a potluck style meal so that everyone can have an assigned dish. In years past, I would invite friends and family, and each would contribute a side dish or dessert while I focused on the main event, which in our case was a turkey. You might also be using catering or have cleaners to come help you prepare or clean up after. So you want to be sure to list all the people involved, whether it's helpers or guests, so that you know who to contact and when. The third part is list what you need. This is supply time. Do you need decorations? Do you have basic supplies for hosting the number of people you've decided, like tables and chairs, enough dishes, tablecloths, things that you're going to need in order to serve? This could even be actual serving dishes or things like roasting pans. When it comes to a food-centric holiday like Thanksgiving, food plays a big role, and so that also means you're going to list the food supplies you need. Start listing out the menu, and then you can list out the ingredients of each dish you'll prepare. And again, this is a backwards order, so you can get granular and you can create tasks and grocery lists from there. The fourth part is to outline your preparation and timeline. And this is what people think of when it comes to planning. So for something like Thanksgiving, this is where the rubber meets the road. You will need to figure out what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. Now, this is where it goes from vision to planning and it becomes actual tasks. And one thing you need to figure out is how to break that all down. You have a date and a certain amount of time to get it all done, But in this case, especially, you can't necessarily space out tasks equally when it comes to food preparation, for example. So some things can be done far ahead of time and some need to be done closer to the date. So figuring out what options you have in terms of food prep that you can freeze or things that you can purchase ahead will help you be able to break out the tasks and not have it too overwhelming, too close to the date. One example of this that I've found helpful is to break up shopping runs. At least 2 weeks ahead of time, I purchase as many of the non-perishable or really long-lasting food items, such as canned or boxed items, or maybe something like root vegetables like potatoes, which can last a long time if stored properly. And yes, I like cranberry sauce. Judge me if you must. So part 5 of this is actually more of a bonus part to planning, and that's having contingency plans. It's incredibly important to help you reduce your stress and to give you options that allow you to seamlessly get to your goal. As you consider your vision, timeline, and everything that needs to be done, you are doing the planning. You also want to try to anticipate potential challenges or have backup plans in place. What if you can't purchase the thing that you expected to? Have you done the research you need? If something goes awry, be ready for an alternative. This could mean extra food and drink, maybe not exactly what you planned, but something that could work instead. Some alternative arrangements, if weather is a factor, that's a big thing in terms of moving where you're going to be having an event. And perhaps a different way to cook the meal. I love making sure that I have propane in our gas grill, just in case. And last but definitely not least, maybe the number of a good takeout place. Whatever it is, having these options will definitely reduce the stress and also remind you that things happen and it's okay. Go back to the vision that you have and the why you want to do what you're doing. And in this case, I know for us, it's all about family and togetherness. And if something goes wrong with the food, we'll live, especially if there's ice cream in the freezer. So let's go beyond event planning. The principles of this kind of planning extend far beyond event hosting, whether you're setting personal goals, embarking on a new project, or managing your daily tasks. Starting with the end in mind and creating a well-structured plan can significantly increase your chances of success. When you visualize what you want and you start with your why, you have a better sense of what's involved, and you can also start to actually see the steps involved. And this is what takes it from dreaming to doing. This is the essence and the effectiveness of planning. Now, visualizing can be done in many ways. It can be simply thinking about what a result might look like and listing out the reasons why you want to do something. But it can also be something like a vision board. And I'm curious if you've ever tried one. If that is something you would like to try out and you'd like some help in creating one that's easy and realistic and learn why they actually work, be sure to check out episode 137 on how to create a vision board that works. Also, if you'd like to be guided through creating one and have a special handout to do so, you'll definitely want to check out the Resources Vault. You can find that on the resources page of the Positively Productive website. The Vault is jam-packed with tons of special resources. And if you listen to the Vision Board episode, you'll get a link with a special listener discount. You'll get the Vision Board training and a handout, plus a ton of other resources. So when it comes to the other part of planning, and that is figuring out the steps to take to get to your goal or vision, that's where traditional productivity techniques will come into play. You'll want to list out everything that needs to be done, prioritize them, delegate them if possible, and definitely organize the steps so that you can chip away at them over whatever time frame you have available. Like I was saying before with, let's say, purchasing food for the event, places where you can purchase certain things ahead of time and hold on to them, and then that splits it up. I've always found that a huge grocery run is very draining to my energy, And if I can split it up into a couple of runs, it just makes things so much easier. And it also gives me a second chance to go over my list and make sure that I'm still on track. This part of it is also where habits will come into play. Habits can work for repeat steps and for overall review. For example, once you make a plan, you want to create the habit of checking on that plan, checking on your timeline and the steps that you need to be taking regularly. The frequency will depend upon your time frame. If there's something that is a couple months away, maybe checking once a week or a couple times a week will work. As it gets closer to the day, you definitely want to be checking daily, and so on. Let me give you another example that combines these elements we talked about today. It involves a client of mine who wanted to write a book. It's a dream that many of us have, including me. But she had struggled to make time for this to happen. She was running a business, she had a family, so it felt like these other obligations were constantly pulling her away from this dream. She tried to find the time on her own and had made some progress, but she couldn't seem to make it happen. When we worked together through repeat accountability sessions, we addressed her vision, why she wanted to write the book, and what it would look like when she did. And we worked backwards from her goal of doing so in 9 months. We determined what she would write each week and when she would be able to do that realistically, juggling business and family. We took into account different challenges and contingencies like sickness and vacation and even writer's block. We designed an environment that would be most conducive to writing, set up a ritual to do before writing that would help put her in the zone and get her into a flow state. So there's a lot with regard to her habits and her approach that we worked on. We set parameters for the project and we set up a very specific timeline. We identified her vision, space, the people involved, and we had regular check-ins to help her course correct. And part of that course correction was shifting the deadline, because realistically, that's what happens in life, and that's okay. Instead of the 9 months she had originally hoped for, she had her first final draft done in 10 months. Not too shabby, right? And she also had a system down for future books. As we wrap up today, I want you to remember that planning is a powerful tool that empowers you to create the life you desire. By starting with the end in mind, going backwards, that's the direction you want to go. I know it sounds so strange, but that's what you want to do. And then embracing those key elements, you can transform your vision into a reality. And you can do it without sweating too much. Whether it's hosting a special holiday event or achieving your personal and professional aspirations, I encourage you to embrace the art of planning. Start with the end in mind and plan your way backwards to success. Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious and limited, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback, questions, or want to schedule a chat, head to positivelyproductive.com/connect. And if you are looking for any of the resources referenced on the podcast, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.